Tina from Target Tamers, and I've spent a lot of my evenings with the new B6 12x50 binoculars. I'm really impressed with it for almost everything, but most especially for hunting, lunar observation, and nighttime observation. Let's break it down. The B6 binoculars are not only new to the B series, it's also the first of its kind with 50mm apertures for the B series. I also reckon it's the biggest of what I would consider the all-purpose platform. The B6 binoculars are not only the new thing that Maven has brought out this year, they've changed their packaging. Not sure of the reason why, but it does still come with the Maven box sleeve. And now with a box that I reckon looks like a high quality egg carton. Other than what it looks like, it's form fitted, really nice and stiff, does keep everything well protected in the box during even the roughest forms of shipping and handling. Now the B6 falls right in line aesthetically with all of Maven's other binoculars. You still have the orange and grey accents, but because it is part of the B series, it will be customizable, so you can change a few of those options if you want to. It does have a new mold, but it still has the same build integrity for a B series binocular. So it's IPX7 rated, which it means it's waterproof and watertight for 30 minutes in 1 meter of water. It's nitrogen purged, so it's not going to fog up on you when you're moving from extreme temperature changes, say from one vehicle where it's nice and warm to outside where it's cold. Really good for those who are hunting during the winter. And it also has a magnesium frame. Now it comes in at 30.7 ounces in weight, 6.6 inches long, 3 inches across. Super compact for what I consider for the 12x50 binocular. I mean, not too long ago, that was about the standard size for a 10x42 binocular before they started becoming even more compact. What is noteworthy about the B6s is that Maven finally gave us some really grippy adjustments. Now, let's just take a look at the C3 12x50s really quick. Okay, so the diopter, as I found of nearly all of Maven's binoculars, are really stiff. So I've coined it Maven stiff. I don't expect it to loosen up over time, but I feel like the B series, especially the new B6s, it's just spoiled me. It's got a textured, grippy knurling on the outside. Now that makes the diopter, even though it's still really stiff, a lot easier to grab and adjust. Now the focus knob, super easy to use even with gloves on. Now I mentioned gloves a second ago. I don't usually wear gloves when I'm using binoculars, but I did use these on occasion with the B6s while I was field testing them, and really easy to use. You know, I said that, focusing with gloves on, and there is no difference in handling with gloves or without, wet or dry. Here we have a 12x50 binocular, so the field of view is going to be narrower compared to other compact versions. This one has a 289 feet at 1,000 yards, a 5.5 degree angular field of view, and that's pretty good for a 12x50 binocular. In fact, the cheaper alternative, the C3 12x50s, have 251 feet at 1,000 yards, so you're getting a lot wider field of view with the B6s, but then again you are paying a lot more for it as well. It has wide angle Schmidt-Pachand prisms, dielectric coatings, ED glass, and the objective lenses, and all of that combined together actually gives it improved optical specs. Now the first thing that I noticed right off the bat with the B6s and how they will help hunters and those who are observing wildlife in the late evening hours is that it's incredibly bright. The light transmission is huge with the B6s. Now my context pictures show conditions actually brighter than they really were thanks to the auto exposure, but I was able to continue viewing elk at about 800 yards after the sun had set, and then of course you get the decreased sharpness and contrast because you're losing light. Now I only have a small window to be able to test out that period, but much akin to hunters looking to make the most of last legal light, and the 12x50s B6s will absolutely get you there. If you're going to be taking those long range shots at the last minute, you're going to want to upgrade your rifle scope as well. Now the sharpness is crazy good, and by sharpness I mean the ability to be able to discern and resolve small details of your targets. Now this did really good for me, gave me a great sharpness and the ability to distinguish targets or distinguish detail on elk at 1,500 yards away. keep in mind that you're also dealing with mirage, and that can also ruin the sharpness that you're getting. But B6s did perform exceptionally well. You can also see resolve detail on much larger targets much further away. Now the off-axis sharpness is really good, and what I mean by that is the usability of the entire field of view, not just at the center. So for most people, when you look through the B6s, you're seeing edge-to-edge clarity. For me, it's pretty darn near good to edge quality. There is some very, very minor edge softening, but that didn't interfere with my glassing experience at all. Now the eye relief is 17.5 millimeters long, and that may sound tight on paper, but I found it actually rather forgiving. I am accustomed to pressing my eye sockets right up against the eye cups when I use binoculars, but with the B6s, just like my experience with the B1.2s, I found that I merely need to sit them on the bridge of my nose, kind of have my eyes pulled back a little bit to be able to get one circle, true collimation, and to view the entire field of view without anything like kidney beaning, vignetting, or my eyelashes getting in the way. If I just place it on the bridge of my nose, pull my eyes back a little bit, I've got it. It's perfect. So if you run into that, it's not the binocular, it's you. You just kind of need to play around with it until you've found the sweet spot and what's comfortable. First off, what it's not so great for is thick timber hunting. It's just too much power for that type of environment. Now, bird watching with the 12x50 B6s will be a rewarding experience, but in my case, I found that it was better used when I had it mounted to a tripod. So the only problem is birds don't like to stay still for too long, and then it makes dealing with a tripod kind of tedious. My recommendation for bird watching would be the B1.2 line, the 10x42 model. Absolutely awesome for that type of activity. Security, law enforcement, any sort of tactical use for binoculars, the 12x50s will be really good at nighttime for observing, you know, at least a few hundred yards away. These I found were best used for those longer distances if it was mounted to a tripod. So my biggest recommendation for the B6 12x50 binoculars would be for those who hunt in open areas, or those who come out west, or those who are hunting in, you know, unpredictable terrain where you're moving from the mountains to open fields, open meadows, things like that, just not the timber, obviously. You know, when you're able to spot elk and wildlife over 1,000 yards away, almost a mile away, it's absolutely worth it. If you're wondering if it could work as an amateur or a beginner stargazing binocular, my opinion on that is, yeah, it'll do okay. Now for lunar observation, excellent. You're getting crisp details on the moon. Digiscoping was another matter. I had to increase the digital magnification on my phone to be able to simmer on down the moon's brightness and to be able to capture any sort of detail. It does bring to life, viewing through the binoculars, all the stars in the sky. You will be able to see planets as well if you know what you're looking for, but they will still just look like shiny, really shiny bright balls. You won't be able to see or resolve any detail. After all, it's not a telescope. Now this isn't really a flaw of the B6 binocular itself, more as it is about my tripod adapter and the associated process of having to mount it. Now the B6 and the B1.2s feature a new tripod cap. It's small, I mean it looks good, but it's kind of difficult to be able to get off and on. Now my tripod adapter has a long stem, and can you see those scratches on there? That's from a set of pliers. And can you see this gap between the objective barrels? Makes it really difficult to be able to grab the stem and tighten it. That's why I need the pliers. So there are different forms of tripod adapters out there, even some with smaller knobs on the end that might make it easier to grab and tighten, but that gap is still pretty tight. So not necessarily a flaw of the binocular, more or less a problem about the kind of tripod adapter I have. So if you are going to be mounting your 12x50 binocular, which I absolutely recommend that you do to get the most maximum potential out of it, get a different adapter. So there you have it, my long-winded review on the B6 12x50 binoculars, and I'm absolutely taken with them. I love the new grippy adjustments on the focus knob and the diopter, and the optical performance is breathtaking, just absolutely crisp, sharp, bright, everything that I could demand from a pair of hunting, nighttime observation binoculars. Okay, I've also recommended in this video the C3 12x50s. To me, if it's just about the money, the C3s would absolutely be my first pick every single day. It's not as expensive as the B6s, but it's mid-range and absolutely worth it if you're looking for that 12x50 platform. I've also recommended in this review the B1.2 10x42 binocular. Has that much wider field of view, so really good for all-purpose general use, and especially bird watching if you want more from your binoculars for that purpose. So check out the Maven Comparison Binocular Guide if you're still not sure about what you want. The written review to the B6s, I'll throw that down in the link with all the other links as well. I'm sure you've heard enough of me for now, so like, subscribe, and get outside.